Scott Addict RC 15 Review. But before we start, please support us by pressing the like and subscribe button so that we can continue to provide the latest information about motorcycle and bicycle trend. Also turn on the bell button to get the latest updates. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you. The Scott Addict has a long and distinguished history in the pro peloton. The original version was claimed to be the lightest production frame at 780 grams when it launched in 2008. More recently it was powered to victory at the Vuelta with Simon Yates in 2018. World champion Annemiek Van Vleuten rode a rainbow-themed Addict in 2020, though she won the actual 2019 title race on the aero Scott foil, and it is now the bike of Team DSM and ridden by Romain Bardet et al. As with the other bikes in this test, the Pro Team version costs about twice as much as the consumer one, and it's not just down to the spec. Scott uses a carbon called HMX SL for the 11,889 pounds Addict RC Ultimate, while for the RC15 it's the second tier HMX. As the suffix suggests, the Ultimate is made from lighter, stiffer material, and this, along with a lighter groupset, SRAM Red eTap AXS-V Shimano Ultegra Di2, and wheels, makes it almost a kilo lighter than the RC15. The geometry is identical. However, the Addict RC15 is an undiluted race bike. Scott Addict RC15, frame and fork. The Addict is Scott's climbing bike and the foil the aero bike, but, as we're seeing with other brands, the twain are beginning to meet. In the case of Specialized, the lightweight Tarmac SL6 and the aero Venge have already met, with the Tarmac SL7 the result of their liaison. So this latest iteration of the Addict already borrows some of the foil's aero characteristics. In fact, there's an aerodynamic feature almost everywhere you look, from the fully integrated cabling at the front to the Comtail seat post and drop seat stays at the rear. Scott also says its patented airfoil design has been applied to the main tubes. To underline the Addict's aero ambitions, there are some really smart little aero tricks like the magnetic cover on the caliper mounting bolts on the left fork leg. Overall, it has a beautifully clean aesthetic. Although the size 56 is designated large, didn't 56 always used to be medium? The geometry is fairly standard, with head and seat angles at a classic 73 degrees and the stack and reach as you'd expect for a race bike of this size, a ratio of 1.43, which is neither too upright nor crazy aggressive. Our test bike did come with a full stack of spacers under the stem, making the front end a little tall, and the super integrated front end makes it a little tricky to fettle. It's no longer a case of simply swapping the spacers under or over the stem, although the spacers are split, so that you can remove them without disconnecting the hydraulic hoses and D2 wires that run through the middle of them and down into the head tube. The cover cum top cap has to sit directly on top of the stem, meaning the steerer has to be cut if it's to be used, and it definitely wrecks the clean look if it's not used. Components. Since Shimano Ultegra Di2 is spec'd on all four bikes we tested back to back, there's no need to go into the pros and cons. Suffice to say there aren't many cons. It's a superbly functioning group set. Perhaps the only part of it that deviates from the usual disc road bike setup is the 160mm rotors both front and rear. The Addict RC15 gets capital 1.035 disc wheels from Scott's in-house brand Synchros. These are pretty decent carbon wheels, with a retail price of over £1,000 if bought separately and weighing just over 1,500 grams. They have a modern, wide internal rim width at 21mm and they're tubeless ready, but Scott supplies them with tubes and Schwalbe 1 race guard 28mm clinchers. These are good all-rounder tires, but for us would be the first upgrade. This bike deserves faster, lighter rubber, as we found. Bigger is not always better. The Addict has clearance for 28mm tires, and perhaps Scott has spec'd them just because it can. The finishing kit is also Synchros branded. The proprietary bar and stem are separate aluminium components, compared with the Pro-Level RC Ultimate's one-piece carbon bar/stem, but they work with the frame's clever internal cable routing, which is also mechanic-friendly, according to Scott, with channels built in, to give a very neat front-end integration with not a cable in sight. The 120mm stem and 42mm bar are sensible choices for this size. Call me old school, but a 56cm bike with a stubby 100mm stem, like the Specialized Tarmac SL7 Expert, just doesn't look right. The Synchros Belcara saddle would be the second upgrade. It was hard and unforgiving, so that unless saddle height was perfect to the fraction of the millimeter, it was uncomfortable. The unusual seat post clamp arrangement is aimed at cutting weight, adding a claimed 12 grams, and Scott says it's a carbon-friendly design too. It uses a grub screw on a band at the front of the seat post and feels flimsy, using a 3mm Allen key to tighten. Using something as crucial as a seat post clamp to save weight isn't a great idea in practical terms, but it worked fine. In fact, better than some wedge designs that can easily get wedged, and we didn't experience any seat post slippage. Ride. I was a bit preoccupied with the uncomfortable saddle on my first ride on the Addict RC 15. I also felt as though I should have been going faster for the amount of effort I was putting in, admittedly based on nothing more than old school RPE with heart rate as a rough guide, but in the end was surprised to post my fastest time on that particular route, which I ride regularly, since last summer. I put the slightly sluggish feel down to the big, heavy all-season tires, but they clearly weren't as slow as they felt. Next time out, I had swapped the 28mm Schwalbe ones for a pair of 25mm Schwalbe Pro ones, which we were using as the control tire for the 4 race bikes tested together. This saved 30 grams per wheel and pepped up the Scott's ride feel, as I had hoped it would. On the first ride, although the bigger tires had cushioned away some of the ride feel, I had nevertheless been impressed with the Scott's cornering, very sure-footed. With the superior, lighter Schwalbe rubber, it not only retained that feeling of being able to corner at any speed, but it felt livelier, more connected and much less cruisy. Even with the racier tires, the Scott Addict RC still didn't feel quite as responsive as the 3 other bikes on test, the BMC Team Machine 2, the Giant TCR Advanced Pro Zero and the Specialized Tarmac SL7 Expert, but on the most challenging section of the test loop, which climbs steeply to the top of Leith Hill and then descends at up to 50 miles per hour down to Dorking, it was the fastest of the 4 bikes, which serves as a reminder that just because a bike feels fast, doesn't mean it is fast. The slightly muted ride quality compared to more seat-of-the-pants feeling bikes, the BMC Team Machine in particular, clearly didn't slow it down. On the descent it felt 100% in control, and under braking the frame and fork perfectly countered twisting forces from the 160mm rotors front and rear. To sum up the riding experience, I would say the Scott Addict RC 15, although every bit as stiff, doesn't provide as direct a feel as those other 3 bikes and is therefore missing a little of the excitement. However, it is deceptively fast, its handling is perfectly balanced, it corners and descends incredibly well, and for longer rides, where settling in and preserving energy are arguably more important, the extra degree of comfort and isolation from the road surface could end up giving it an advantage.
Thanks for watching.
Drop a like, leave a comment,
and don't forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.